Hello again. Now this next story is a follow-up to the tripped over the dog, and it actually happened a month later, so in the month of July. So tripped over the dog was in June about 1997, and this next one happened in July, it resulted in me going into hospital at Louth, not as an inpatient, but the story will continue. A bit of background to it is that during the month of July we had some supporters of the horse centre who'd arranged a special fundraising weekend in Willoughby. Now, Willoughby is a village just south of Alford in Lincolnshire, not too far from where we were. And Willoughby is the home, by the way, of John Smith. Now, if you're followers of history or interested in history, you'll have heard of John Smith. He was an adventurer who went to America in the very early days. Willoughby Church, there is a window to commemorate the life of John Smith, and lots of history about the chap. Certainly an adventurer. Anyway, Willoughby was going to be the place, or Willoughby, the village hall, for the fundraising day. I think it was the Saturday. Could have been the Sunday. I think it was the Saturday. For the horse centre, and we took two horses in our big trailer, Admiral and Sam, so that people going to the day could learn more about the horse centre and see some of the horses. So it rained. It wasn't a disaster, but it was a wood turner there and people doing crafts and stuff like that to make it interesting. But it rained, and I think it was all right for a start, but then as the day ended it poured down. And when we came home at the end of the day, then I had to get Admiral and Sam out of the trailer. Sam was okay, but Admiral, he was a little bit uneppen, you might say, in Lincolnshire, a bit clumsy at times. He was one of the heaviest horses we got. Not the biggest, but heaviest, the Suffolk Punch. They're quite rare. In fact, they're very rare. They're the rarest of all the heavy horse breeds now. And getting out of the trailer, he slipped and fell off the edge of the trailer and sat down. And in doing that, I'd got hold of him, actually with my other arm. I got hold of him with a leading rein, and I tried to stop him, and of course it was my bad arm and bad shoulder and everything else, and he just completely took the arm out of the shoulder joint, dislocated the arm completely. It was waving about. You can't, when it's dislocated, you can't do much with it, you know, and the pain is incredible. Anyway, we got Admiral up on his feet and put him in the building with all the other horses. And then one of the helpers, we got several helpers there for the weekend. I think it was Phil. And Phil took me off we decided to go to Louth Hospital, because Louth, this was a little bit more serious than what I'd had the previous month. And it needed some, proper attention there and then. So we went to Louth. Well, would you believe it? It was July, of course. It was bank holiday weekend or something, and the traffic was infernal on the road from Louth to Skegness. And would you believe it, of course, typical transport planners, they got two sets of roadwork traffic lights on the journey as well. So journey, it would have taken us about 20 minutes, took us 40 minutes or more. And all the time I was getting more wound up. The pain was intense. It really is quite bad. It's one of the worst, I think. I believe, I'm told, one of the worst things you can do for pain is a dislocated shoulder. So eventually we got there, and it was Saturday night, that's right, because outpatients was full, casualty. There was a great long queue of folks. There was the usual folks, not a lot wrong with them, but thought there was. There was someone with a head injury who was ahead of me. Well, I think they were being treated when I got there. And then there's one or two others, and eventually, oh dear, I think I had to wait best part of an hour. I was trying to get Phil to go out somewhere and get me some painkillers, because it was Very difficult to cope with the pain. Anyway, my turn came along, and the doctor said, OK, you'll have to go off to x-ray. So in Louth, this is in 1997, when you went to x-ray, you went down a long slope on a trolley thing. You went down a long slope because the x-ray department was like the floor below. Louth's a bit hilly in places, and the hospital is built more or less on top of the hill, so there was underground bits and above ground bits and whatever. Anyway, I didn't get pushed by what do you call it, chap? They attached me to an electric tow truck. You might think I'm making all this up, but it's quite true. So I was laid on this trolley, and they attached me to an electric tow truck, and the porter drove it down this long slope to the x-ray department. So I get sorted out. By this time I was getting beyond feeling anything, because I can't remember whether they gave me some painkillers. By now probably they did. And then I don't remember much more after that. I remember coming back up the slope, and then the doctor said, oh yeah, you can see everything, and he's going to have to reduce it, and they gave me some gas and air or something. Anyway, they knocked me out a bit, not long term, but, and that was all I remember until probably next day, really. Phil had got me home, strapped up, arm was all strapped up, of course, fastened to my chest, immovable, and I keep banging this microphone. I got home anyway. When I took that off after a bit, and on my chest was a great big footprint right in the middle of my chest. I thought, that's strange, isn't it? He probably trod on me to pull the arm, because you have to pull the arm out a bit further and stretch it and twist it and let it slide back in again. A few years later, when I dislocated my right shoulder here in France, I had to go to casualty, and the doctor did tell me, yes, it is common practice to put one's foot on the patient's chest, get him laid on the floor, put a foot on his chest, and then you can actually get good purchase on the arm and twist it, but the patient needs to be a little bit unconscious, ideally. So I dislocated the other one here in France a few years later. Anyway, back to Louth Hospital, and I'd got home, and Phil and his family went off the next day went off back home, because they were working, of course. And so we had to progress as best we could. I mean, the injury this time was a bit worse than previously, and so I really was fairly incapacitated. I couldn't really pick up anything with this with my right arm. But I'd got an appointment to go to the outpatients and see a surgeon. I think it was maybe the next week, or yeah. So this is where the amusing bit comes. And the only transport I got was my motorbike. I got a 250 Honda Super Dream at the time, with a super white police type fairing on it. A nice bike, but it got very rotten. Anyway, by the time a week had gone by, I was getting pretty good. And Ruth, yes, this is it. Ruth had a contact at the hospital in Spilsby. For some reason or other, they'd had a physiotherapist, or got a physiotherapist there. And Ruth asked the lady what I should be doing to help improve my situation. And she sent me one of those big elastic bungee things, It's like an elastic hula hoop, but it's not. It's just floppy. About the size of a hula hoop, but floppy. And it's stretchy. You can hold it against your foot and pull with your hand and things like that, and it's you can do all kinds of things with it, but they need to tell you what to do. So I'd been doing that for several days, and it was improving the arm and shoulder no end. So I was getting quite good with using it a little bit, So the day came when I was due to go to Louth outpatients to see the surgeon. I'd not seen this chap before. Anyway, I went on my motorbike. Well, I had no other way getting there, so I got sling round my neck, and once I got into the car park, popped the sling on again, and went into the outpatients and sat down and waited for my name to be called. You know, I booked in and all that. So when the chap called me in, and he said, I don't know what you've been doing, but you've had 2 serious injuries to that shoulder within like 5 weeks, you know. I said, yeah. I said, I don't normally get injured, you know. I've not been to hospital a lot. So I said, now, is there any chance of any physiotherapy, do you think, for this? And he said, physiotherapy? He said, I saw you arrive in our car park on that motorbike and then put your arm in a sling and come in here. He said, you're not supposed to. I said, well, it's the only transport I've got, you know, really. So I just asked. He was beginning to lose his temper a little bit. And he said, now look here. You've had 2 serious injuries. He said, now, if you touch a horse, a dog, or even a cat, he said, in the next 2 months, don't come back here. And I was sent out, and that was it. So that was the end of that episode, really. So I had to take it easy, and I do realise that the sling was of great use. It did help an awful lot. So in between a bit of mucking out and a bit of this and a bit of that, then I kept my arm in a sling, and it gradually improved. But this is 1997, it's now 2024. I still can't raise my arm above shoulder level. It won't go up. It won't go up very high at all. That's about it. That's about as far as I can reach it. And it hasn't got a lot of strength in it, and it's got an awful bump on the top of my shoulder where a lump sticks up. Difficult to sleep on sometimes. But anyway, there we are. That's another interlude. These things happen, and whatever. Now, in conclusion to this little story about the shoulder dislocation and the doctor telling me not to touch anything for or else well, he said, don't come back here if you don't rest it. I don't know. So can't blame him, can you really? Anyway, you can read this story on our Buzzsprout audio story site. It isn't in the Volume 1, It's a Rum Life Book 4, because it's too new for that. So hence I've made it a bit more of a story here on this video. So if you like what we're doing, then we'd be ever so pleased if you give us a like, and then also think about subscribing to the channel, because it helps the channel to grow and the YouTube people know that we may be doing something that people like. So it does help us, and so that would be wonderful. And until the next time, then, thank you for being with us, and cheerio for now.